absolutely cranking out decks lately, alright? So I think it's time to get back to our roots and talk about some obscure cards again, alright? Because I got some doozies today, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let's talk about them. Ran in 10.7k decks, Visonia Dro Apostate is a 2 and a black 2/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand. And if that sounds familiar, that's because it's the same thing as Oversold Cemetery, except Oversold Cemetery isn't at random. So if you need a second copy of Oversold Cemetery in your deck that also happens to be on a 2/3 body, I think Visonia is actually really good. Because you can just build your deck for this to be really efficient. So like in a deck like Henzi Toolbox Tori, for example, a black, a red, and a green 3/3 that gives each creature in your hand with CMC 4 or greater Blitz, which means you can pay its mana cost to put it into play with haste, but you have to sack it at the end of turn and draw a card. Blitz cost you pay costs 1 less for each time you've cast Henzi from your command zone. So in that deck, you're casting tons of huge creatures, blitzing them into play, sacking them to grave. So if you make it so like all your mana ramp, card draw, and removal are non-creatures, and just make all your creatures these big bombs, Visonia is always going to be hitting a bomb from your graveyard back into hand if you're in a deck like Henzi. It can also just be your commander because it's also got choose a background. So if you've wanted like an Oversold Cemetery in the command zone, I think Visonia is very cool. One of the only choose a background commanders I've actually considered building. I think that says something. But if Visonia is not your speed, let's try out Talion's Messenger, being a 2 and a blue 1/3 flying. Whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you discard a card, you may put a 1/1 counter on target fairy you control. I see you, Wizards. I know when you're trying to trick me with a card like this. This reads like it's just for fairy tribal, but when you really read it, doesn't matter how many fairies you're swinging with. It's only going to give 1 counter to 1 fairy. So let me rephrase this card for you. 2 and a blue. 1/3, flying. Whenever Talion's Messenger attacks, draw a card, discard a card, and put a 1/1 counter on it. Oh, you know what I mean? Way more interested in this. I actually think this is a very good looter to just run in decks because it's just a flyer that will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger indefinitely until someone deals with it while looting at the same time. This seems really good. Like if you're in the Emmett Selch Unsundered list and you're trying to put cards in your graveyard with looter effects, I think Talion's Messenger is just a great include in there as one of those looter effects. To interact with cards like, oh, I don't know, Archfiend of Ifnir, for like whenever you discard a card, put a neg1 on each opponent's creature. Yeah. Swing with Talion, your whole board gets a -1/-1, and my Talion gets bigger. Oh yeah, and it's got flying. Sorry about you. Not to even mention if you're in something like Emmett Selch, who is just a looter himself, when he flips, once you have 14 cards in your graveyard, you can just start casting stuff out of graveyard. So all the stuff you discarded with Talion's Messenger. I just think Talion's Messenger, pretty spicy, if I'm being honest. Now I've got a small, like, I got a little package of cards here that are all going to be referencing Emmett Selch and Archfiend of Ifnir, so just buckle up for these next 2 cards, okay? Ancient Excavation in 11.9k decks is 2, a blue and a black for an instant. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, then discard a card for each card drawn this way. Basic land cycling. This is great. A lot of the cards that do these type of effects will have you discard your hand, then draw that many. No. This one has you draw those cards first, then discard the amount that you drew. So much better. If you've got 7 cards in hand, congratulations, you've got 14 now, and you get to pick the 7 best out of all 14 of those. Incredible card. Again, with Emmett Selch, this is a great way to fill your graveyard to 14 so it can flip, and with something like Archfiend of Ifnir, this acts as a board wipe, a one-way board wipe, genuinely. Discard your hand, give that many -1/-1 counters to all your opponent's stuff, sure. And ran in 12k decks in a very similar vein is Awaken the Erstwhile, being 3 and 2 black for a sorcery. Each player discards every card in their hand, then creates that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Again, if you're in Emmett Selch, great way to fill your graveyard and get a board state. And Archfiend of Ifnir, yeah, wipe their board of anything they have in play. Sure, they get zombies still, but very good interaction. Kind of a cool, like, quote-unquote game ender in a reanimator deck, because you're probably going to be top decking much better in a game where you just discarded your whole hand than everybody else, and you're probably going to be able to utilize those 2/2 zombies better than everyone else at the table. I considered it for Taval. 5's a little steep. If it costs 4, I might do it. I probably still wouldn't do it. I think you really have to have like that discard sub-theme going on for this to be really good. But again, 12k decks, I feel like this could definitely be ran in more than that. I've got a rule in these lists that if I have to do a double take and read the card 2-3 times, that it's an auto include in the list, and Virulent Silencer definitely met that requirement, being 3 colorless for a 2/3. Whenever a non-token artifact you control deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. Yeah, I had to give this one a couple reads. Yeah, your Solemn Simulacrum just has does 2 poison damage now. Your Bronze Guardian that has double strike will now do 4 poison because it's got double strike. If you're in something like Chisgoria, the big dragon that can just cheat out a bunch of artifacts, that might be kind of a sick way to bring home game as Verulian Silencer. I think it's obviously going to be good in like a go wide artifact deck. So if you're in like Alicia Who Smiles at Death, but you run it like artifact weenie stuff, this could be an insanely powerful card in there. Just a 3-drop that could single-handedly be a win condition in the right deck. Yeah, if you've got 5 artifact creatures in play and then you drop Veruliant and you smack somebody with it, they're dead. They get 10 poison counters. It's definitely an interesting card. It definitely made me reread it multiple times. Something to consider, I believe. But what do I know? Just pray for anybody who's on the other side of this. Pray for me. Have you guys seen that video? I love that video so much. The old guy in traffic who's getting into like road rage with the other guy. The guy's like, I'll pray for you, man. He's like, don't you pray for me. That's such a funny sentence. What's not funny, though, is being on the other side of a Bloodspore thrinax. Also, Verulian Silencer was in 12.2k decks. Bloodspore thrinax is in 12.5k decks, being 2 and 2 green for a 2/2 with Devour 1, meaning you can sack any number of creatures when it enters to give it that many 1/1 counters when it enters. Each creature you control enters with an additional X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Bloodspore thrinax. This is very good. Very, very good. I think a lot of people will probably assume this is only good in a deck where you can actually Devour. I disagree. Even if you can't Devour and you're just in a +1/+1 counter deck that just gives creatures 1/1 counters, Bloodspore is insane. It's just actually very, very good. Obviously, if you're in the deck like Gave Guru of Spores, being a 2, a white, and a black, 0/0 that enters with 5 1/1 counters, and can turn those 1/1 counters into tokens and turn tokens into 1/1 counters, Bloodspore thrinax is insane in that deck. But yeah, if your commander can dish out 1/1 counters or has stuff to Devour and is a go-wide deck with stuff like Avenger of Zendikar, making a ton of 0/1 plants, Bloodspore thrinax, absolutely a bop in those decks. Seriously seems good. Like, if this was in white, blue, or black, I would run this in Earnest so quickly, it's insane. Moving on to what must be done. Ran in 13.9k decks. This 3 and 2 white sorcery has choose one, destroy all artifacts and creatures, or return target historic permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It enters with 2 1/1 counters on it if it was a creature. Oh, so you're telling me that like in my Teneb the Harvester deck, like my Obzon Reanimator deck, I could run this just as a board wipe, and then if I wanted to, just reanimate my Rhea Dawnbringer into play? Yeah, I think a 9-drop 4/6 that reanimates stuff on my upkeep is going to be pretty good to cheat and play. Oh, especially if it enters as a 6/8 with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. I don't know. You can also get back like a mere Battlesphere with what must be done. I think this is a pretty cool card. If you're in a Reanimator deck that runs white, take out one of your board wipes for this. I'm sure you've got a handful of legendaries or historic creatures that are very good to reanimate, and this'll do it. Being ran in 14.1k decks, Azra Oddsmaker is a card that a lot of you guys on the Discord talked about liking, being 1, a black, and a red for a 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may discard a card. If you do, choose a creature. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, you draw 2 cards. This is sick. This is actually a really cool form of card draw, honestly. Queen Marchesa loves this thing, spitting out 1/1 black assassins with Death Touch. People probably aren't going to block the Death Touch assassins if I had to guess. So you can just discard a card, target one of your 1/1 Death Touch assassins, swing with that. Nobody blocks. Oh, I'm going to draw 2. That seems fine. And the discard, don't overlook the discard either. Again, Archfiend of Ifnir. If you've got any kind of discard outlets in your deck, Azra also discards. So this card just seems very, very good. There's a reason it's right on the cusp of being in 15k decks. Let's get it over that. Let's get it over that hump, all right? Because this card's pretty solid, honestly. Speaking of a card that needs to be ran in way more decks, Simic. You don't have a lot of board wipes, if like any board wipes, really. So Oversimplify should probably be in more decks than 14.3k. I'm just saying, I think there's way more than 14.3k Simic decks out there. For 3, a green and a blue, sorcery, we exile all creatures. Then each player creates a 0/0 fractal with X 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of creatures they control that were destroyed this way. Seems pretty good, especially because Simic goes wide as hell a lot of the time. So even after the board wipe, you're going to be left with the biggest fractal. I don't know, man. This just seems like a straightforward, not only board wipe, board exile in Simic. 14.3k seems ridiculously low for this one. Nothing specific, literally just a Simic board wipe. Run it more. Another card that I'm shocked isn't ran more is Steely Resolve. It's in 14.5k decks, and I understand it's like a $15 card. I don't feel like that's that much for how good this is. 1 and a green for an enchantment. You name a creature type when it comes into play, and all creatures of that type get Shroud. Sure, it's all, but like, you're in the tribal deck. I'm sure you're going to have more of that thing than other people do. If you're in the tribal deck, like High Perfect Morcant, like the elf deck, you play this name elf, sure, a couple of like Rex Sages here and there will get Shroud, but your entire deck gets Shroud for 2 mana, which is nuts to me. Or if your commander just makes tokens that are the same type as the commander, like Coma, a serpent that makes serpents. Steely Resolve seems great as a 2-drop, protect all my coils and my Coma. Again, 14.5 decks, I don't understand. I think it might be in the reserved list, but like still, even that, that doesn't stop you from just going to like Card Kingdom and ordering Steely Resolve. You know what I mean? Oh, it's in the reserved list. You can still buy it, and it's still incredibly good, and it's still in 14.5k decks. And even if your logic is like Nick, it's a limited printing. There's not even probably 14.5k Steely Resolves in the world. It goes off Moxfield deck list. You know what I mean? That just means people aren't even considering including it in their deck list on Moxfield and on Tapped Out and on freaking whatever else you're using, Arcadeck. So it literally is just people not including this card in some of their deck list, which I think needs to change. Being ran in 14.6k deck, we got Worms Crossing Patrol is ran in 14.6k decks, and this 1 white 1/1 has Myriad. And that might not seem that good, but this is a 1 white for 3 bodies. Which, if you're in a deck like Arabella, Abandoned Doll, being a red and a white 1/3 that cares about the number of 2 or less power creatures you have attacking in order to deal that much damage, this seems incredibly good because just off Worms Crossing Patrol and Arabella, you've got 4 bodies in play. So Arabella immediately shoots someone for 4, you gain 4, you deal 4 to somebody with your 4 1/1s. Seems incredible. Also, if you've got sack outlets in your deck like Viscera Seer or Altered Dementia, you could sack some of your myriaded Worms Crossing Patrol tokens to those. It's a very good card. 1 white to get this much value seems incredibly good to me. I feel like 14.6k, not nearly enough. I've seen this in a couple of the viewer-submitted Friday Night Deck Review decks, and every time I read it, I'm like, that's really good. I like that. Moving on to Rage Reflections, which is ran in 14.7k decks. Literally not a lot to say here. It's a 6-drop enchantment that gives creatures you control double strike. Not a lot to say here. It's like a $2 card. It's ran in 14.7k decks. I just think it should probably be ran more. All the other ones are ran more. This one's on the budget side of things as opposed to a lot of the other ones. So if you're on a budget and you need a double damaging effect, Rage Reflections is pretty good because not only does it offer double damage like a lot of the other ones do, it offers double strike. So that's also first strike in combat, and that's also 2 combat triggers if you connect with the player. So there are some niche use cases for Rage Reflections over some of the other ones. Again, no real like synergies or anything specific to call out here, just 6-drop, give your stuff double strike, underran. There you go. In 13.9 decks, we've got Kina Q Gourmet, being 2 and a green for a 2/3. Whenever 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 green frog creature token are created instead, and you can pay 2, sacrifice a frog, put a 1/1 counter on Quina. I just like effects like this, like tokens getting more, you just getting a bonus token when you make tokens. I like that, and then also having a sack outlet in a token deck that makes Quina bigger. I like that as well. Again, something like Gave Guru Spores. Every time you remove a counter to make a 1/1 Sapperling, you're now making a 1/1 Sapperling and a 1/1 green frog. So look at that. You could remove a 1/1 counter from Gave, make a 1/1 green Sapperling, also make a frog, sack the frog to put a 1/1 counter on Gave, and you just netted a 1/1 Sapperling out of the deal. So as many times as you're willing to pay that 2, you can cycle in and off of Gave and just flood your board with tokens. Not even mention if you throw something like Lizale into this equation that adds an additional counter when you put a counter on something. Remove a counter from Gave, make a frog, make a Sapperling, sack the Sapperling, put 2 1/1 counters on Gave thanks to Lizale, and then you're really netting some value off of each cycle of this. So, Kina. Pretty solid, if you ask me. But anyway, moving on to Earnest Fellowship, being ran in 1.8k decks. This 1 and a white enchantment has, each creature has protection from its colors. And that's every creature. If you're in a group hug deck like Feldegriff, this seems fantastic to just give everybody a bunch of protection. But especially if you're in an Esper list, you have access to all 3 of the best removal colors, and giving your commander protection from all 3 of those colors, and potentially a lot of your creatures protection from some of the most removal-filled colors in the game. Earnest Fellowship seems pretty good in a deck like that. Tribune of Rot is ran in 1.3k decks. This 1 and 2 hybrid Golgari 3/3 has, whenever Tribune of Rot attacks, mill 2 cards. Then for each creature card milled this way, create a 1/1 green Sapperling token. Obviously, this is amazing in something like the Myco Tyrant. The Myco Tyrant makes you funguses equal to the number of times you descended this turn, and Tribune of Rot makes you 1/1 green Sapperlings for the amount of creatures you milled. Milling is descending, so if you're milling permanents, the Myco Tyrant's making more funguses. Tribune of Rot's potentially making 2 1/1 green Sapperlings and putting 2 cards in your bin every time it attacks. genuinely kind of considering Tribune of Rot for Tavall, because a 3-drop 3/3 is already pretty good stats. Those are Centaur stats right there. But then a built-in mill engine and token engine, like that's kind of what Tavall's all about. And also 1.3k dex, dude. Get this in more decks. The clue set is incredibly underrated. Just like Zombie Trailblazer is. This thing's ran in 5k dex, and I don't understand, zombie players. Get your shit together. For 3 black, we get a 2/2. Tap an untapped zombie you control. Target land becomes a swamp. Tap an untapped zombie you control. Target creature gains Swamp Walk until end of turn. So, like, throw this in your Scarab God deck, dude. You're making a bunch of zombies. You're reanimating some of the most powerful creatures as 4/4 zombies. Now you can give those things Swamp Walk. You can turn your opponent's stuff into swamps and, like, shut them off colors, which is disgusting because it doesn't say in addition to its other types. It just becomes a swamp. So they got a dual land over there. That's their only source of red. Tap a zombie. Turn that thing into a swamp. Very disgusting. And then give your zombies evasion by tapping zombies? Sure, my carrion feeder that's gargantuan wouldn't probably mind that. Yeah, again, zombie players, get your shit together. Zombie Trailblazer, very, very good. Requiem Monolith is ran in 11.2k dex. This 2 and a black artifact has tap. Until end of turn, target creature gains. Whenever this creature is dealt damage, you draw that many cards and lose that much life. That creature's controller may have this artifact deal 1 damage to it. Good. Am I wrong? It's a 3-drop that literally at the end of the day is just has a little built-in like deal 1, draw 1. You know what I mean? 3-drop, 3 and a black, artifact, tap it, deal 1 to one of your creatures, draw 1. And that doesn't even like include some of the interactions with stuff like Blasphemous Act. You tap this, target one of your creatures, drop a Blasphemous Act for 1 red, deal 13 to that creature, draw 13 cards for 1 red. That seems pretty good. And then finally, Malicious Pride is ran in 2.8k dex. This 1 and a white tribal enchantment Kithkin has, whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, you may pay 1 white. If you do, you put a 1/1 Kithkin soldier creature token into play, tapped and attacking. If this sounds familiar, that's because it sounds very similar to Launch the Fleet. Being a 1 white sorcery where you can pay an additional 1 for each target beyond the first. Until end of turn, any number of target creatures have, when this creature attacks, put a 1/1 soldier into play, tapped and attacking. The only differences are Malicious Pride is an enchantment and repeatable, and Launch the Fleet can target tokens while Malicious Pride cannot. But if you're in just like a go wide small deck like Alesha who smiles at death and you have a lot of small bodies that are attacking consistently, Malicious Pride is actually kind of a good token engine, honestly. It is a bit of a shame that it can't do non-tokens, but that would be very good if it could do non-tokens. All you need to do is get 1 and then just exponential growth your Kithkins. But still, Malicious Pride, I think is pretty good. Definitely good enough to be justified in more than 2.8k decks. But like I always say, what do I know? Let me know down below if you've ran any of these cards, what you think of them, and some of your favorite obscure cards that you enjoy playing with. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, I'll never stop you from doing that. We're trying to hit 20k by the end of the year, which I think is going to happen way before the end of the year, but who knows? If you want to go check out the nixlotus.com website, you can use the Lotus Refinery, which is a Scryfall search optimization tool, or check out the merch page to buy our Taneb the Harvester crew neck sweatshirt and rock the Taneb the Harvester reanimated dragon on your clothes. And if you want to show some additional support, you can check out the YouTube members page or the Patreon members page down in the links below. Starts as low as $1, and you can gain access to the deck submission form to submit your decks for Friday night deck reviews here on the channel. So, a little incentive there. Huge shout out to all the names you can see on screen right now as they support the channel a ton. And go ahead and click on one of the 2 videos on screen because YouTube thinks you might like it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.